Hello everyone, welcome to our video lecture in IT Professional Elective 2, Data Scalability and Analytics. Of course, this topic is closely related to our subject regarding about basic statistics, and the topic we'll be discussing is about basic information on t-test. Uh, T-test is very important in research. Uh, if we have a research like let's say social research or experimental research or even developmental research, that we would test the difference between two groups or two population or two gathered data. So the t-test is very useful. Okay, so for example, an experiment, we want to test the performance of the students, okay, about Filipino in the Filipino subject. Um, Before, they're not uh, using the learning management system, or they're not using video material, okay, and then eventually you come up with a an alternative method, the way of learning, that you've integrated a video material, okay, and then you try to compare their performances, okay, from the pre-test and then post-test, using that intervention, using that learning management system, using that video material. So you could now test the performance before in the pre-test, then performance after, and using that learning management system in that post test. So that is t-test is very useful. So another is, we want to determine the height or the weight of people, okay. For example, is it in the people of Abra, no, in the people of Bangged is much taller, around 1 inch, and the people of Lagangilang around 1 inch. So we could contest that. We could test that using the t-test. We could gather around 100 samples from Bangged, and we could gather 100 samples of persons the in Lagangilang. Then we could test it if there is significant difference, something like that. So we could, another example is, we could using the t-test, we could determine the quantity of things, okay, and so on and so forth. So t-test is a statistical test that is used to compare the means of two groups, just like I've said. It is often used in hypothesis testing. Okay, the term hypothesis testing, to determine whether a process or treatment actually has an effect on the population of interest, or whether two groups are different from one another. So um, imagine that you are running an experiment where you want to compare two groups and quantify the difference between them, just like I've said a while ago. For example, compare if the people of one country are taller than people of another one, okay? Or compare if the brain of a person is more activated while watching happy movies than sad movies, okay? So this comparison can be analyzed by conducting different statistical analysis, and this basic statistical tool or analysis tool is the t-test, okay? So in t-test, we always find the term, or this logic, okay, this argument called the hypothesis, okay. Hypothesis is a tentative explanation based on observations you have made, okay. Your observations may have been followed up with a search of the literature for more information before you develop your hypothesis. For example, a hypothesis. This is an observation, no? Men's hands are larger than women's hands. Okay, actually, it is. I've observed a lot that men's hands, but is there a statistical tool that prove? Yeah, that's the word that prove that men's hands are really larger than women's hands. Okay, or another hypothesis is the while you add fertilizer to a plant makes it grow better. Okay. Well, I observed that if you have a plant, a vegetable plant, then you apply the fertilizer. It could be artificial or natural fertilizer. It was observed that it generates more fruits. It grows better and so on. Okay, but is there a statistical tool, okay, to prove that argument? Okay, so that is a hypothesis. Okay. So now, when we say null hypothesis, actually the same thing with the hypothesis, but we just formalize it. Okay, uh, a more formal statement of the original hypothesis. The null hypothesis is usually written in the following form. So this is a general formalized form. There is no significant difference. So that's the word. There is no significant difference between population A and population B. Example. So there is no significant difference in hand size between males and females. Okay. So another is there is no significant difference in the growth of fertilized plant versus unfertilized plants. So the main keywords here of the null hypothesis is there is no significant difference. Okay, this null hypothesis is a statement to be tested. Okay, to be proved. Okay. Uh, a null hypothesis actually uh, about this. The symbol of null hypothesis is the HO, and of course, once we have test and we have now the result, there we could reject the null hypothesis, and there is a statement for that. That is called the alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis. So the alternative hypothesis symbol is the HA, and or could be said as H1. So remember that null hypothesis, the symbol is HO, and the alternative hypothesis, once we reject the null hypothesis, that is an alternative hypothesis, the symbol is HA or H1. Okay. So we use this statistical test to compare our sample populations and determine if there is a significant difference between their means. The result of the t-test is a p-value. This value is then used to determine the p-value. So actually in Google Sheet or any spreadsheet program like Microsoft Excel or the Google Sheet has a formula t-test to determine. Okay, there's a formula t-test. The keyword is just t-test, and I've already demonstrated this one in our previous video. Okay, so the result of the t-test is actually a p-value. Okay, so the p-value. Now, once we got now the p-value, this p-value is the probability that p falls into a certain range. In other words, this is the value you use to determine if the difference between the means in your sample populations is significant. For our purposes, so this is the condition now once we got the computed t-test, the p-value. If the p-value is lower or less than the 0.05, this suggests a significant difference between the means of our sample population. And we would reject, okay, the term, we would reject our null hypothesis. So the condition there is if the p-value is less than 0.05, we would reject the null hypothesis. Okay. Now another is if the p-value is greater than 0.05, okay, suggests no significant difference between the means of our sample population, and we would not reject our null hypothesis. Okay, so if the p-value is greater, okay, larger, okay, higher than 0.05, we would not reject our null hypothesis. So the 0.05 there is actually a constant value which you can find at the t-table. The t-table is a matrix, okay, is a matrix comprises of constant number which you can locate, which you can uh, uh, it will be the basis, that number will become the basis of determining if it is lower than p 0.05 or greater than 0.05. Okay, the t table you can search it from internet, fire up Google, then you could view the table there. Okay, the t table of t-test. The 0.05 there referring to the alpha value, the alpha value. Okay, so the probability value, meaning to say in the 100 test, 95% will be, the test will be rejected, and the 0.05 will not. Okay, so there's a lot of chance of rejecting the statement or the ordinal hypothesis. Okay, so referring to that to that condition, no, you just stick to that condition. If p-value is less than 0.05, we would, okay, you will not reject. Okay, I mean you will reject. Okay, you will reject the null hypothesis. If the p-value is greater than 0.05, you will not, okay, you will not reject the null hypothesis. So in t-test, there are two types. There are two types. One is the unpaired t-test, and the second is the paired t-test. Okay, so the unpaired t-test, a type of t-test used when you have independent samples. Okay, in other words, your samples are not directly related to another. Example, index finger length between males and females. Well, actually, there's no relationship with the index finger of male and female. Okay, you can do the t-test for that, but they call it the unpaired t-test. No relationship between the two things. No. Another is, for example, you are trying to test the quantity of fruits from garden 1, then quantity of fruits, okay, let's say eggplant or tomato or plants in the garden B, garden A, then garden B. Then if you want to test the its quantity, okay, if are both they have different quantity or the same quantity, yeah, they have different group, so there's no relationship between between the two groups, no, but you can test for that, and that is called the unpaired t-test. um, just like I've said a while ago regarding if you want to test the to prove that argument, the people of Bangged are much taller, around 1 inch in the people of Lagangilang. So that is unpaired t-test, independent. They call it independent t-test or independent samples. Okay, so there's no relationship of the people of Bangged, and there's no relationship of the people of Lagangilang. You just want to test, okay, the difference. Okay. the significant difference. So that is unpaired t-test. Another type is the paired t-test. So in the paired t-test, these test samples are related. There is a relationship. Okay. You collected data before and after some manipulation of your subject. So, for example, student performance before and after using the learning management system. Okay. So, for example, this paired t test, you have a one group of you have a students located in one group. Let's say BSIT first year, section A. Okay, so they enrolled in programming one. So they are using Python. Okay, Python programming language. So normally before they're not using other forms of alternative or video instructions. The the strategy used by the teachers just a lecture, demonstration in the board, some simulations in the board. That's all. No additional learning materials, no video instructional materials. Okay, and then you eventually uh, you made a test question. Okay, you made an exam, then you find out their performance. Okay, and then there's another thing. You have now, you come up now, the teacher come up now with a learning management system. This learning management system has this lots of tools in developing the learning process of the students. It has video materials. Okay, it has many tools. It offers or it provides lots of strategies in the learning of in learning programming. So you use this learning management system, you integrate, okay, this learning management system to that student. Okay, the same group of students. Okay, so they use that, they utilize that, they took that materials, they watch videos there, they read lots of stuff there in that learning management system. And then eventually you come up an exam, then you find out regarding their performance. Okay, so at this point there is an intervention, the intervention of learning management system. So you come up now the test. Okay, you come up now the test. You test now the performance before, which is the pre-test, and then the performance after, which is now the post-test. Now the intervention now here is the learning management system. Okay, so you can now test the difference. Okay, is it using learning management system? This is now the hypothesis now. Is it learning management system? Using learning management system is better in way of integrating in student class to make to the betterment of the performance of the student. So that is the hypothesis. So that is a paired t-test. There is a relationship with the same group of people. Okay, there is an effect. Okay, there's an effect. Okay, using this learning management system, you could now test. So that is the paired t-test. Okay, so that is the type of t-test, the unpaired t-test and the paired t-test. So when you have experiment soon or research soon, you could use this t-test to analyze the data. Not just actually normally in IT researchers they just do it the mean average, which is the mean average actually not quite or not, it doesn't provide much information in determining the difference actually. In its statistic, they use actually the t-test to test the significant difference really for the two group of population or people. So I hope this information uh, helps you in your future research. And I believe this ends my video lecture. So if you have question, you don't hesitate. just put your comment, your questions at the comment box. So again, class dismiss. Okay. Thank you and be safe.